So after this terrible incident at Kabul International Airport, you had 170 people who passed away, 200 wounded. The majority of victims were, of course, Afghans, and there were 13 dead Marines, right? So after this attack, which took place during the evacuation, because as you know, the United States is withdrawing from Afghanistan after 20 years, allegedly withdrawing, at least its uniformed troops, and it's evacuated 120,000 people, 6,000 U.S. citizens, and you have tons of people who are trying to leave the country, which was supposed to be so great after the U.S. occupied it. And this terrible incident happened, and Joe Biden comes along and he says this. Take a look, okay? It's from CNN. Dang it, that's the wrong window. Hold on. This is from CNN, okay? Look at the headline. Biden to Kabul attackers. Biden to Kabul attackers. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. I will defend our interests and our people with every measure at my command.
So when Joe Biden said, we will hunt you down and make you pay, this is what he meant. 10 family members, including children, dead after U.S. strike in Kabul. That's what he meant. I swear to God, as soon as I heard that the U.S. had launched a drone strike, the first fucking thing that I thought is, I bet they killed some people. I just know that they killed some civilians, right? And it, just as a side note, isn't it convenient how one day after the attack, they suddenly know who is responsible, where they live, how to find them, and they can attack them with a drone. But never before, right? Astonishing. Not just the US, this happens all the time with the French intelligence, the British intelligence. They know who these people are. They have them under observation. They let them carry out these attacks and they're, oh yeah, of course we know this guy, let's go get him. So one day after this attack, magically, the US knows where these three Daesh members are. They killed 2 and 1 wounded, right? What they didn't tell you is they killed 10 civilians. Joe Biden murdered 10 civilians, right? Here they are. Now, if you go and look at, the reports in various, publications, BBC, New York Times, depends. They have their names and ages spelt a bit differently, so I'm not entirely sure 100%. But I can just read you this. I think it's from CNN. So they're saying Farzad, around 9 years old, Faisal, 10 years old, Zamaria, 40 years old, Zamir, around 20, Nasir, around 30, Banyamin, around 3, Armin, around 4, Sumaya, 2 years old, Malika, 2 years old. So that's what Joe Biden meant when he said, we're going to make you pay. He just killed a bunch of civilians. He murdered them. And of course, the Pentagon, when they announced the strike, look at what they said. Watch this.
Good morning, everyone. I'll get right into our operational update for today. Yesterday, U.S. military forces conducted an over-the-horizon counterterrorism operation against an ISIS-K planner and facilitator. The airstrike occurred in the Nangarhar province of Afghanistan. I can confirm, as more information has come in, that 2 high-profile ISIS targets were killed and 1 was wounded. And we know of 0 civilian casualties.
Did you hear that? We know of 0 civilian casualties. Did you see how this motherfucker just lied? You're telling me that they have all this technology, they have all this intelligence that they can track down the terrorists Within 24 hours, you know, they have over-the-horizon capacity, as he just said, right? Drones. Up in the sky. They have all the time in the world. They have all this intel, all these resources. And they don't know that who's going to die. When they do drone strikes, they know exactly what's going to happen. They make risk calculations. Will we hit the target? You know, what's the chance of hitting them? Will we get a successful kill? Are there any civilians? They know exactly what the fuck they're doing. 100%. Right? Well, most of the time anyway. My point is that they have the technological capacity to figure this shit out. Right? But the entire war of terror, what have they been doing? They don't give a shit. They're like, oh, well, there's this suspected terrorist. We don't even know if he's actually a terrorist. It's just he has a phone number that happens to match some intel we have. Oh, there are 10 civilians around him? Never mind, just fire the rocket. Did you see how he just lied?
Without specifying any future wounded. And we know of 0 civilian casualties.
This goddamn liar. They killed a family of 10. This is the whole war on terror, man. This is the whole war on terror. This is what people are not understanding. This is not an accident. This was not an exception. This is not an anomaly. This has been the whole war on terror. Do you not understand? This is what they've been doing the whole time. This is from The Intercept, thanks to the leaks from Daniel Hale. Daniel Hale, again, he's the whistleblower. He was just sentenced to around 4 years in prison, 45 months in prison. And one of the revelations that he gave us was this. Okay, so this is under Obama. Okay, so during one 5-month period of the operation, according to the documents, nearly 90% of the people killed in airstrikes were not the intended targets. Do you see that? This has been the war on terror the entire time. They have been killing civilians ruthlessly, carelessly, purposely. There's no way you can excuse this. None at all. Either the United States is the most advanced military in the world, they have all of this amazing technology and intelligence and capabilities, and they know exactly what they're doing and they are killing civilians on purpose, or they are completely reckless. And this just, again, underscores the point that they should not be in these fucking countries murdering people. Why is this so fucking difficult to grasp? Could you imagine the outrage if Iraq or Afghanistan had drones flying over New York City just murdering people? They would fucking lose it. They would lose it. Look what they did after 9/11. They murdered 30, 40, 50 fucking times more people because of that. And of course, this piece of shit, Joe Biden, what does he do when he's talking in his speech, right? After this attack, after the alleged withdrawal from Afghanistan has finished. Take a look. Notice what he says.
Our diplomatic corps and intelligence professionals did their job and did it well, risking their lives, not for professional gains, but to serve others, not in a mission of war, but in a mission of mercy. 20 service members were wounded in the service of this mission. 13 heroes gave their lives.
A mission of mercy. So this whole speech, multiple times he talks about the 13 heroes who gave their lives, meaning the Marines, right, at Kabul airport. He doesn't not once talk about the 170 Afghans who were killed in the same attack, the same fucking attack, all because of the United States and their allies invading the country, and then on top of it, not even being able to provide adequate security and logistical capability to execute, disaster-free evacuation. And he doesn't make any mention of the fact that he just murdered an entire fucking family the day before. Nothing. It's like it didn't even happen. Nothing. This is what they meant when they were voting out fascism, right? This is the lesser of two evils. Fucking unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. They just wiped these human beings off the face of the earth yesterday for no reason. No reason. And I want to show you some other data, because there are people who think that this is a joke. They think that it's still okay to murder civilians. Oh, it's just collateral damage. It's for the greater good. All this war criminal apologist nonsense, right? And so just look at this. This is from Brown University, right? So they say from the last year of the Obama administration to the last full year of recorded data during the Trump administration, the number of civilians killed by US-led airstrikes in Afghanistan increased by 330%. 330%. Can you believe that? This is unbelievable. This is absolutely unbelievable. Here's something else I want to show you. So I'm zooming out over here for you. Look at the number of Afghan civilians. That's a conservative estimate. That's a conservative estimate. When they tell you that 47,000 Afghan civilians died, this is a lie. This is a lie. The real number is in the hundreds of thousands. It's just like with Iraq. They tell you, oh, well, during the invasion, yes, quite a bit of people died. They don't tell you that, well, because of the invasion, you had, this years of violence in the country, after the invasion. Complete bloodbath. They don't tell you that after these massacres that took place for years in Iraq due to the instability, the power vacuum, then you had ISIS. So after Al-Qaeda, you had ISIS who killed even more people. This is all a direct result of the invasion, of American interference, American imperialism, Western imperialism, British imperialism, right? So when they tell you that like Biden says, oh, it's a humanitarian mission. It's a mission of mercy. He just fucking murdered a family the day before, and he comes here and just lies, through his teeth. He acts like he did nothing. I mean, he is the terrorist. This is the terrorist. You cannot come here, for example, and tell me that this kind of attitude, for example, over here, is acceptable, right? Look at this. You still have people talking about Obama in this kind of manner, in this fashion, right? Saying that happy anniversary to the biggest scandal of the Obama presidency, right? And then they leave out, of course, that he funded Al-Qaeda in Syria, he bombed a hospital in Afghanistan, a wedding in Yemen, and so on, right? So all of the war crimes, no mention of that. Which, again, Biden was vice president under him. And it continues, right? So you go from Bush starting these wars, Obama carries them, expands the drone program, expands mass surveillance. He starts more wars in Syria and Libya. And then Trump takes over, does even more shit. He goes and assassinates Qasem Soleimani. He starts increasing, as we saw, the airstrikes, 330% more civilian deaths. Then Biden takes over. Even during the withdrawal, he's still killing more people. It's unbelievable. It never ends. It never ends. And I want to show you something, because I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about how the United States, they say that went to Afghanistan, they went to Iraq, and the British, of course, say the same thing, right? They're equally as brainwashed. They say, oh, we went there because we're nation building. We have to, we have to give them democracy, and it's a humanitarian mission, right? They're fighting terrorism. Look at this graph over here, okay? This is from Princeton, okay? Take a look at this. What does that say after 2001? You can see after 2001, there is a goddamn spike of people killed by suicide attacks worldwide. And look at the number of attacks. So not just the people killed, but the number of attacks in blue also goes up. What happened in 2001? Can you tell me what happened in 2001? America started its war on terror. That's what happened in 2001. And they said that they have to invade Afghanistan. They have to invade Iraq. They have to invade all these countries because they're harboring Al-Qaeda, that they're sponsoring terrorism. Well, of course, ignoring Saudi Arabia, who's actually sponsoring terrorism. And they said they will make the world safer. How the fuck is this safer? How is this safer? There are more people killed because of suicide attacks and more suicide attacks after 2001 than everything before that. Than all attacks combined before that. You call that a war on terror? That's a war of terror. And then look underneath. Look underneath. What happens over here? You can see these are the global deaths from terrorism, okay? Look at Iraq, which is in orange at the bottom. Look at that. The number of deaths in Iraq from terrorism. What happens after 2003, after the invasion? It just goes up and up and up and up and up and up and up. So did the United States, did Great Britain reduce terrorism? They succeeded in fighting Al-Qaeda, in fighting global terrorism, or did they make things worse? This is literally exponentially worse. You can even graph it. It's fucking quantifiably worse, scientifically worse. And not just in Iraq. I don't know why, but they've combined Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, even though those are, they're different conflicts. Now, of course, they're all related in some way, in some manner, when you look at who's provoking these conflicts. But I don't know why they've combined them, but you can see that's also risen in Afghanistan and Pakistan, right? And in the rest of the world. So how is the world safer after 2001 and 2003? It's not. It's more dangerous. It's more violent. It's less safe. There are more terrorist attacks, suicide attacks. There are more people dying from terrorism. This is an abject failure in the best of cases. I mean, even if you want to give the US and you want to give the UK the benefit of the doubt, the only thing that you can say is that they have failed miserably. But that's not really the case, is it? We know there's a long history of these terrorist groups being sponsored by the United States, being sponsored by MI6, right? In Afghanistan, in Syria, in these very countries, right? So it's not just in the world in general, it's the exact same fucking countries where they are fighting terrorism that you have more terrorism now. More terrorists. So clearly they are making this worse, right? This is undeniable. This is undeniable. So best case scenario, they failed. But the truth is that they have helped to stir conflict, to cause mass suffering by sponsoring these groups. You go to Syria, right? There's no fucking moderate rebels in Syria. There's no moderate opposition. There's Bashar al-Assad, there's the Syrian army, and Al-Qaeda. That is the choice that Syrians are faced with. That's it. There is no alternative. And this was clear from the beginning, right? You go to Pakistan, you go to Afghanistan. Who was funding Mujahideen in the first place? Who is allowing Saudi Arabia to export Wahhabism, and still is, right? You can't come here and tell me that the world is a safer place. It's not. The United States does not know how to nation build. The United States does not know how to impose democracy. The United States is not a force for good. The United Kingdom is not a force for good. They have not succeeded in their supposed counterterrorism mission. They have made more suffering in the world. They have created more terrorism, more deaths. This is just... How can anyone look at this? This is the fucking critique. This is the analysis that any sane, rational journalist should be making about the end of the war in Afghanistan, or the alleged end. Because the invasion of Afghanistan was the beginning of the war on terror. So you must look at the war on terror. Is there less terrorism now? No, there fucking isn't. It's not just about, was Biden really good at putting people in planes? What is this, fucking Noah's Ark? Look at what they did to the world. There's more terrorism now. These countries have been torn to fucking shreds by US imperialism. This is the only real analysis. This is the fucking conclusion of 20 years of war on terror. Do you not see it? And then you have these plastic, transparent, cheap fucking mouthpieces. These propagandist motherfuckers going on CNN and going on NBC and whining, crying, these neocon tears. Oh no, the war is in. Fuck you, man. The war on terror is not ended. What are you doing in Syria? What are you doing in Iraq? Why do you still have special forces in Afghanistan? Why have you killed so many people? Don't come to me and talk to me about women's rights. You've killed so many fucking women. And these pieces of shit, look at their faces, man, lying. He just murdered an entire family. He's standing there lying. Both of them. Fucking liars. God damn it, man. This is all they can say. Oh yeah, the withdrawal. Oh yeah, we are leaving behind our allies. What allies? What? Oh, I'm so angry about this, really. I'm so angry about this. Everyone with half a brain knew that they were lying back then. They knew that they're not invading Iraq to fight Al-Qaeda. There's no Al-Qaeda in Iraq. What are you, smoking crack? There's no Al-Qaeda there. Why are you invading Afghanistan? The hijackers are from Saudi Arabia. It's all bullshit. They lied. They lied to make money. They created more terrorists. If you go and you listen, this is not the main reason, it's one reason. If you go and you listen, for example, to Vietnam veterans, right? There's a viral video on YouTube. I don't remember the title, but it's a Vietnam veteran being interviewed. And he says that as soon as he got to Vietnam, he was completely his eyes opened up to the truth. He was completely disillusioned by what was happening. And he saw that the more they occupied Vietnam, the more insurgents, again, insurgents is not really the right word. When someone invades your country, you are resisting an occupation. It's not necessarily an insurgent, you're just resisting, right? If tomorrow morning, Rachel Maddow's worst fears came true, right? And Russia supposedly invaded the United States and people resisted that, does that make them insurgents? No, right? So let's be correct in the language. But this man, he said that as soon as he got to Vietnam, he realized the more the U.S. occupied Vietnam, the more hate it fostered, right? The more the Vietnamese hated them, and the more insurgents or resistors or whatever you want to call them, they created. And you've had British soldiers who went to Afghanistan saying the exact same thing. The more we occupied Afghanistan, the more people we turned against us. Okay, so that's not the whole reason for this, why there's more quote unquote terrorism, right? But it does explain a small part of it. And the biggest reason, of course, is that when you invade a country and you create a power vacuum, you topple Saddam Hussein, you try to remove Bashar al-Assad, you remove Qaddafi, you get this shit. You get Al-Qaeda. You get all the fucking lunatics coming out of the woodwork trying to take over the country. This is the fact. Anyone who's feeding you something else doesn't know jack fucking shit about the Middle East, okay? This is what happens. When you remove the power, you create a power vacuum, you move. This is the CIA agent who interrogated Saddam Hussein and said this himself on tape. When you took Saddam out of power, you took his hand off of the lid and you got all the scum coming out of the woodwork. And they do shit like this. You end up with ISIS, you end up with Al-Qaeda, and you get offshoots like that. And of course, the United States sees this and let's go fund that. Let's give them money. Let's give them weapons. Let's create more chaos, right? And there are many reasons for that. The war in Syria, for example, is not just about removing Bashar al-Assad. It's about keeping Syria in a state of chaos because that benefits Israel indirectly. Well, not indirectly, just directly, right? Israel is bombing Syria every week because Syria can't defend itself. It's fighting on 3 fronts. And they want to keep the Middle East divided. They want to keep the Middle East fractured, the Muslim world fractured, because if the Arabs united, which is already difficult enough to do in the first place without the Americans or the British meddling or the French. But if there was a unified Arab bloc, and this has been attempted, you had Egypt and Syria, one country, not everyone liked that. Naturally, there were some disagreements, but I'm talking about the goal here. The British and the Americans want to keep the Muslim world, the Arab world fractured. Because if you put them together, there was a unified Arab bloc, you would have over 300 million people in this bloc, in this nation, in this union. Right? This would be one of the top 3 superpowers in terms of economy, military, population, landmass. You can walk from Morocco to Saudi Arabia, right? It's one connected landmass, one common culture, one common language, one common history, even one common religion, of course, although you have minorities like me, I'm Arab, Christian, but nonetheless, there's a harmony here. But who cut all these countries up after World War I? France and Britain, they came in and divided these countries. They put Israel there. And now today you have America is fulfilling the same role, making sure the Arabs stay divided. They hate each other. Saudi Arabia is doing this shit to Yemen. Egypt and Jordan have ties with Israel. And it's just a whole fucking mess. They want to balkanize the region as much as they can to make sure there's no competition. Look at what China hasn't done shit to the Americans. They're just good. They're developing themselves, and Biden is calling them a threat. This is how the Western world see other places. They see everything as a threat. This is how these capitalist, imperialist scumbags see other people. They don't want them to succeed. They want to shit on them. You either succumb to their monetary system, you accept their multinational corporations, their companies coming in and taking your markets over, monopolizing your country essentially and monopolizing your resources, or they will come and fucking bomb you and take it by force. They're gangs. It's crime on an international level. Okay? It's state organized crime. And so That is what imperialism is. And of course, you have an element of racism to that as well, naturally. But they want to make sure the Arab world, the Muslim world is divided. And so they do shit like this, right? It's not the only reason. It's not the only reason. You have resources also. You have other geopolitical regions. But it's a main reason. You must understand this. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a fucking moron. Right? It is so superficial. It is so easy for, white college professors in the West to come say, oh, well, like these Muslims, they don't like each other and they have to shut the fuck up, man. This is such a superficial analysis. They're trying to paint Arabs as some backwards people who fight about religion. No. You are funding fucking terrorist groups for the last decades. You came in after World War I and divided our borders up. Literally white people around a fucking table carving up maps. I mean, what the fuck is that? You think that's not going to create conflict? They know exactly what they're doing. They divide and conquer. It's the oldest trick in the book. And unfortunately, when they do these things, innocent people like this die all the time. And this has been the war on terror since the beginning. It's innocent civilians dying. Millions of refugees from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Syria, from Libya. Millions of refugees displaced, their homes destroyed, their futures destroyed, their families, their friends destroyed. For what? So some fucking corporate assholes can make money in the United States selling weapons? Fuck you. They murder people and cover it up, and then they have the nerve to talk about democracy. They have the nerve to talk about human rights. They have the nerve to come and wag their fingers in the faces of Africans and Arabs and Latinos and tell them that they're not democratic, that they are dictators. What the fuck? Oh man, I'm so angry and upset about this. They've been doing this for decades and decades and decades, and people just go along with it, They're not waking up. So this is the success that Joe Biden talks about, right? That George Bush talks about, that Tony Blair talks about, that Donald Rumsfeld talked about. Oh, look, the war on terror. And they created more terrorists, and they created more death, and more destruction, and more misery. What a great fucking success, right? Lying, thieving criminals.